I'm Wendy Almeida from the Content Studio at Third Door Media. Today we'll be talking about how brands can leverage video from engagement to conversion. And I'm very pleased to welcome our expert speakers today, Bob Batchelor and Lindsay O'Connor. But before we get started, let's go over a few helpful viewing tips. On your screen right now, you should see our presentation slides, a Q&A box on the left side of your screen, and our featured speakers. You can move or resize any of the windows to personalize your viewing experience. If you run into any issues with this platform, use the Q&A box to communicate with us so we can assist you. We will also be hosting a question and answer with our speakers at the end of this presentation, so feel free to submit your questions at any time. If you want to share this webinar with a friend or learn more about MarTech Today or Adtaxi, use the widgets at the bottom of your screen. Our speakers will also be discussing a couple of resources that can be downloaded at the bottom of your screen as well. We're going to be covering a lot of great content today, so don't worry if you miss anything. This broadcast will be made available on demand later this afternoon. You'll receive an email when it's ready for replay. With that business taken care of, let me take a little more time to make a formal introduction of each of our speakers today. Lindsay O'Connor has worked in digital advertising consulting for over 10 years. After graduating from Penn State, she began her career in the corporate sales department at Augusta National Golf Club. From there, she went on to expand her digital expertise by advising brands across the country on ways to engage consumers and drive sales. She joined the Adtaxi team in 2010 and has been an integral part of the company's growth. Bob Batchelor has been immersed in digital marketing before Google began dominating the advertising market. Bob has led teams across product management, product marketing, and sales enablement for various size media companies. He is currently Adtaxi's Director of Customer Experience, working to help clients better understand and utilize the customer journey. Bob loves the fast-paced evolution of digital marketing that keeps him learning and incorporating new ways to help business succeed. And with that, Bob, I'm happy to turn things over to you.
All right. Well, thanks, Wendy. That's probably the best introduction I've ever had in my entire life. So, gosh, incredible. Thank you very much. And super excited to be here along with Lindsay O'Connor, my colleague, presenting with this. This is one of my first times on video, so I just want to say, one, I wore a collared shirt for you guys. This is, big for the last 5 months for me. And also, unlike Wendy, I am not broadcasting from my content studio. This is right from my house in a little tiny room that I try to call my office, so forgive me for some of the, not so formal presentation side of that. But,
Bob, show him the phone. Show him the pink phone, Bob. Come on.
Oh, gosh. For those that are room snooping, that's what I guess is this new term for Zoom or whatever, when you look around. Apparently, Lindsay wants to make fun of me for my daughter's Disney phone. Yes, we still have a landline. I think it's I forget the name of the company. Magic Jack, Super Cheap, whatever. Maybe I'll do an ad for them. But Lindsay wants to give me a little bit of grief for that. Nice fun. But look how nice Lindsay looks. Oh, my gosh, she's beautiful.
Yeah. I did my hair today, too, guys, just for you. Yep.
Exactly. So with Adtaxi, we do a lot of webinars. And our goal really is to give you 3 to 5, maybe even more, hopefully, takeaways. You're investing your time with us, 45 minutes, 50, maybe an hour. But we really want to make sure that you get value out of this. You come away with some strategic thoughts and tactical strategies to bring to your business. Of course, we'd like you to call us. I mean, that's also why we do these. But we'd love to have that as well. So without further ado, get into the agenda here. We're going to talk about trends. There's all kinds of things going on, especially in video marketing. I could pull 1,000 stats, and I'm only going to pull maybe 10. Then we're going to touch on creative. We're not going to go in deep, but we're going to touch on that, talk about channeling success. Lindsay's going to take that over and really drive that home, as well as performance insights. So appreciate you investing your time with us, and we hope it's valuable and on with the show. And this is a little bit of new format, so pardon me while I find my mouse and get to clicking and all that fun stuff. Before I really dive in, though, I forgot we're going to do a poll. So if you would, please entertain us. And what are your biggest obstacles for not running more video ads? We'd love to hear from you on this. With some of those answers for that, is it budget constraints? Is the price of entry too high, you thinking? Maybe it's creative challenges. We see that a lot. You know, is it the creative side? Is it the expense of the creative side? Internal buy-in. Maybe your leadership isn't, you know, I don't believe that stuff works. And oh my gosh, it costs a fortune and all that stuff. So they're not buying into it. Too hard to measure. Man, you can't get anything. You can't do that. No, we can't measure that. Why would we even want to do something we can't measure? Or maybe you don't have any challenges at all. You're just here to learn. So if you would, please take a second, think about that, and go, hey, maybe that's one of ours. Lindsay, anything to add on that side while we got a second?
No, I think you covered it beautifully. And yeah, I mean, this is all of the things that we typically find when people aren't ready to maybe purchase video or, you know, wanting to explore that type of creative. So no, I think I'm interested to see what everyone says.
I know, I got to click and like my anticipation is like building up on this stuff. Here we go. Let's see if we've got everything here. All right. Budget constraint. I'm going to write a few notes down so I can try to come back to this stuff. Budget. We got creative challenges of 35%. That's pretty large there, but we see that all the time. So not to be not unexpected. We're going to touch on that. And I said touch on it, but I'll try to dig a little deeper given some of these results. Internal buy-in. Sounds like leadership's on board. Too hard to measure success. Maybe people already know how to do that, or maybe the other ones just take precedence. And then no challenges. I'm here to learn. Good. I hope we can really bring that for you for the 40% of people that answered that way. So continuing on. All right. Yes, I'm going to talk about COVID. Yes, I'm going to talk about these times, you know, but odd times, I think it's definitely the overused understatement of the year, or maybe the last 6 months, whatever you want to call it. But we know that's a given. So let's look at really what's happening in video marketing and digital, just digital overall, and the consumption and adoption of different platforms and things like that. So this was done back in April, and I'm going to be looking a little bit left to right here because I got a bigger screen to my right when I'm looking at this. But so for digital channels and what people are adopting and how they've changed their behavior, a couple of these on the left, you know, banking. Now more people are doing it online. About 50% growth on people that were doing online banking to now do it. Then this entertainment one, that sector is one where we're probably going to focus a ton of time, the whole presentation on. Entertainment, live streaming. You know, now you're looking at over a 50% increase in that on how people are doing it. And not only on that side of it, they're increasing more consumption. We're going to see that. And then grocery. This one, it kind of, it's like, oh, that's weird, man. So many people were afraid to go out. This was in April again. But 100% double the growth of people that were using digital to order groceries, and now the adoption now. So it's just accelerating so fast, and I'll get back to that. And then some of the ones on the right, a little bit smaller, especially like travel. What do you expect? The only thing, though, I would say on travel is while people weren't traveling at that time, what we saw was rates decrease on different segments to get your message out. So it was a good time to build awareness. And I think that's why I'm seeing a lot of sandals ads and different ads. So it's really cheap to build your awareness right now if you're in certain verticals. So just something to think about on that side. Now, we love eMarketer. We think they're great. I'm not trying to promote them. We don't have any vested interest, but they have a lot of killer data. And this was a study they did. And if you look right there in the middle in 2020, huge growth for time spent on video. And then it tapers off, but it's still growing as they projected this out to 2022. And on the left, where all the words are on the page, the average time spent with Netflix will surpass 30 minutes per day this year. And then Amazon Prime and Hulu going up 19%. But what I like is this last one, because I see a lot of people get hung up on this one. Subscription streaming will remain the most popular way of consumer digital video. And then it has some stats. But what I like to take away from that is a lot of people say on Netflix, I mean, shoot, I can't buy on an ad on that. No, you can't. But there is a pile of places that you can buy ads, Hulu, Pluto, Vice, all kinds of names that you haven't heard of, but your audience is on. So we're going to get to that. I don't want to take any of Lindsay's thunder away, but streaming is huge. And this one touched just a tiny bit on it, but the COVID factor, everybody talks about, all kinds of things that go on, and there's this before and after effect. We had some information. You saw streaming and different video platforms back in the apocalypse, snow apocalypse, back on the East Coast in 2018. When we see hurricanes come in Florida, you see spikes in streaming, things like that. And those spikes usually come back down. But what we're now seeing is before and faster, instead of just before and after, before and faster acceleration. You saw the grocery adoption, all those kind of things that are bringing this to the forefront and now really kind of becoming mainstay on how we're doing business and how we're consuming content. Sorry, my clicker just doesn't want to work as fast as I want to talk. So maybe that's a good thing and I should slow down. And I'm also going a little bit fast, just to let you know, because Lindsay really has the cool stuff. I just get this stuff to tee it up for her. Anyway, 2020 insights. I told you there's 1,000 stats out there, all that. You should thank me later for calling it down for you, really. So 83% of marketers would increase their reliance on video as a strategy if there were no obstacles like time, resources, and budget. Well, that kind of goes back to what we saw was budget. It was 35% on that creative side. A lot of people hung up on that. 15% on the budget side. So it comes back to that polling. So thank you for that. 71% would watch more video than they did a year ago. No big surprise there. This one, 75% plays are on mobile. Not really a surprise. We all have a device. I just get a little hung up. Like, I don't really want to watch video on my mobile, but because I'd rather do it on a bigger screen, or maybe I just haven't upgraded to a big enough phone. But anyway, that thumb-stopping image, that video that's on Facebook, all those things, I mean, it's being consumed all over mobile. So some of the formatting on that, think about, and we'll touch on that as well. 85, this one kind of catches me by surprise. 59% of executives say they would rather watch video than read text. When I think of an executive, which I'm not, because probably you can see why. I think of a person with their stack of paper, they're looking at their reports and they're reading all this stuff. But even they, putting them in whatever, would rather just learn about video, something on video. Why do I want to read something when I've got sight, sound, and motion to connect with me and really make an impact? So really, whoever you are. And I'm probably half ADD, so I definitely would prefer to watch something on video than read about it. 72% would rather learn about a product or service through video. I think I just covered that. Viewers retain 95% of a message when they watch it on video compared to 10% when reading text. That one, Lindsay's going to drive home when she talks about a certain platform that I don't want to, spoil the water on that one. But some very interesting stats on the recall, the messaging on that, and how people can just remember that information and makes a way bigger impression. So we are not new to video. We've been doing this for a while. We've been doing connected TV for a while. And back in, I believe, April of 2019, we did another webinar. Yeah, I know, hard to believe. But those stats are what we saw as trends back then, which is a little bit earlier, especially with CTV and certain things, platforms that YouTube are coming out with, which they continue to evolve. They still hold true. Shorter video format ads, and that will come back to best practices in a second. Mobile viewing, which we touched on. Deeper personalization. Lindsay's going to talk about it, how you can retarget and really drive home a message that's going to connect better because of what you can do with all the digital nuances behind the scenes that make a more personal ad for the person. That kind of didn't sound right, but I think you got the point. Programmatic ad buying, we're touch on that. Certainly a trend there, still going strong. Measured movement, I can't emphasize this enough. the way you can measure data now and what you can do with video from all the way, the whole point of this webinar or the title, from engagement to conversion, it's amazing. And then ubiquitous distribution. I almost say it's starting to get so fragmented, it's crazy, but we're going to try to help you hone that down to where you can really not get confused and find the place in your audience where that can be the best. So 35% of you said creative was the thing, and I said I'm going to touch on it, and I hope I've been giving you enough nuggets here without delving too deep, because what we've also found is a lot of people want some more information on platforms and performance, so I don't want to eat up a lot of time, but I want to cover this. I call it dispelling the myths, because we run into this all the time with people with creative. Oh my gosh, you know, I mean, I can't produce a high quality. I'm not going to bring a production engineer in here with a director and all this. This is going to be crazy. You know, I mean, it has to be high quality or why bother? But that's just not true. You know, authentic. You're going to see in best practices that I'm going to talk about. Being authentic is more real. Bringing up the iPhone can do wonders, or an Android if you have to have that. Cost is high. I don't have a slide on it, but with an offer that we have, and you can probably find it with some other people, they have montage videos that will take images, take some text, take your website, we add music to it. And for $350, you can get a 15-second video created, $450 or $30. So when the myth is that, oh my gosh, it's going to cost a crazy amount, you'd be surprised at how quality the production is and how affordable it can be. And then it's time consuming. You know, it takes a second to write some things out. It does. But we can turn it, if you're quick, we can be quick, you can turn it in 3 to 4 days. Usually about a week, let's be realistic, but it doesn't take much to write some text down, choose what kind of background music, what kind of voiceover you want to have. It's kind of plug and play practically, and just give us some images. And if you have past video, we can clip it how you want and do things with that. So this one, I put another stat in here. It just reinforces one earlier. It's just a little bit of a higher number, and it talks about complexity. But 96% of respondents from a Vimeo Create report, great company there too, responded if time, cost, and complexity were removed, they would be integrating more video. So you're not alone on that. But hopefully nowadays, I think a lot of that stuff is being pulled out. You don't need a ton of resources. It doesn't take much time anymore. And it certainly doesn't take budget or a ton of budget. You still have to spend some making an impact, but don't get me wrong, compared to other media, it's not that expensive. So I teed up, we're going to talk a little bit about best practices on the creative side. Be authentic. Touched on it, doesn't matter. You can use your phone. You know, I think a lot of people want to see something real. You wouldn't believe the stuff I see on TikTok now. Granted, it's not an ad, but the stuff my daughter shows me, holy smokes, it's low quality, but it's funny. And don't be afraid to use what you have. You know, if you have photos, you've got stuff on your website, a lot of that can be created into what we call a montage. When I say montage, it's like zooming out for motion and still have the voiceover. They're still high quality. I mean, you wouldn't believe some of the things that can produce, especially like a zone, take a drone little bit of video and plug that in. It's pretty cool. Then we talked about varying length back in the trends of 2019, going to shorter form video. 6-second bumper ads on YouTube are still very popular, very good way to drive home, like reinforce awareness after you built that. 15, 30-second are great little short forms. Get through that. Then it's so critical, just as with anything, you know, with social, we call it thumb stopping image. And with any creative that you're going to use, especially in video, that first 10 seconds has to be, is critical, has to be good, has to get you to stop your thumb, has to bring you in. Some things, especially like CTV formats, aren't skippable, so you don't have to worry about it as much. But for those ones that are skippable, grab their attention right off the bat. Consider shelf life. Sure, if you want to run a holiday ad for 6 weeks, that's going to go. Maybe you could use it next year, depends on the thing. But a lot of times you could take something, run it for 1 or 2 months, just go hard on the market, back off, and then run it again later. So think about the shelf life when you're doing that. This one I learned probably 3 or 4 months ago in a conversation with Google, and it blew me away, kind of. So multiple versions can be as simple as changing the call to action. I was so surprised by this because I was like, oh my gosh, I got to create a whole new one. I got to create one for that product and this product and explain it this way. But they said, at the end of the video, if all you do is say, call us for a free audit, call us for a free quote or 10% off, that little bit of amount of a change is a version, and they will optimize to that. And so it's pretty amazing that you don't have to go rethink the wheel just to create a different version. For me, it's something I really kind of gravitated towards. Target and speak to your specific audience. I don't really want to color in the lines there because Lindsay's really going to do that. And then outsource help. Maria and I, who I don't know why I mentioned her name because she's not on the call, but we've done a lot with education. Our business does a lot with the education sector. And what we found is that during this weird time, they were finding colleges, universities were finding students making videos and doing all this stuff. And they're like, all these students are making videos. Holy smokes, why don't we take that and leverage it for ads? So you can think about other ways to get content. If you have an employee that loves to take video, think about that. So there's different resources than just yourself across your company or maybe just out there that you can leverage. So those are some of the best practices that we think are out there. Then I'm sure you're going to be happy that I'm going to stop speaking and Lindsay is going to take over here.
I feel like you're so excited about this. Like, I don't know, maybe you should just keep on going because you're in there and I love it. But thank you. That was awesome. I mean, and I think it's cool, the stuff that you covered regarding creative, especially since a lot of people said that they were interested in it. So I will get into the platforms, but Bob, I mean, anything that you want to share, by all means, come on in. All right, so we're going to talk about some of the different platforms. So again, I want to frame this up as thinking about video from a creative standpoint. So video is a creative component that can be utilized across multiple platforms. The platforms that we're going to cover today: connected TV, pre-roll, social media, and Google/YouTube. So we're going to dive into those and be kind of specific on how you can utilize and leverage them. But really quickly, we wanted to have another poll just to get an idea of, have you had success with any of these platforms or experience in the past? And so the question is, what platforms have you had success with utilizing video? You can pick more than one. So if you've seen that, social media and YouTube have worked really well for you from a video standpoint, then please mark it. But again, there's programmatic pre-roll, so the ads that run before an ad on a website, any social media such as Snapchat, Facebook, or Instagram, connected TV, YouTube, as I had mentioned. And then finally, if you haven't used video at all, that's totally fine. Just let us know. I think it'll be really interesting to see, again, like what us, as this audience here has seen success with. It'll kind of be good information for me as I go into these platforms, but then also kind of good for you guys to see what your peers have also had success with. So I think I gave it enough time. Bob, do you think it's appropriate time? I felt like you did good with your poll.
Oh, I think you've done fantastic. And I could just speak for a couple seconds more because then that will allow more time for this poll to come in. So, I can burn as much as we want.
Cool. No, I think we're good. I think I've given enough time. All right, cool. We're going to see results. Let's see. Boom. Look at that. Social media. Yeah, that's not surprising. So, okay, so social media. And I have a couple of theories on this, why it has had such a high performance. I think social media, and I'm going to take a guess that Facebook and Instagram are probably the larger players here. It's just such a tangible, easy thing for anybody to utilize, whether you're going through an agency like us or you're a small business and you're operating on it on your own. Facebook has just made it very, very easy for people to execute video across their platforms. Also, the live webinars are super popular, especially right now. So that's great. Good to see. And then YouTube coming in next. That's awesome, guys. I love to see that. So the interesting thing here too is pre-roll and connected TV have gotten a lower percentage. and maybe it's because you haven't tested it. We did a poll last week, actually, to an audience. We're doing a similar presentation, and 82% of the people we polled had not ever used connected TV. So let's keep that in context too, because I have some things that I want to share that might, kind of change your opinion there. So let's get into the rest of this. So I'm going to just cover goal alignment as well as messaging, depending on the goal that you have. So goal is really important. So being very clear on what your end goal is, no matter what digital marketing you decide to do, is going to be key. And then understanding how the platforms kind of assist in that goal is the second thing to really make sure that you hone in and understand. So as far as awareness, if you're trying to get the awareness out there and do a really strong prospecting campaign, connected and addressable TV is a wonderful way to do it. We know that people consume content and media on TV-like platforms the most. So that's such a great way to have that first touch point, if you will. And then as we move down to consideration, that's where social media really comes in and helps nurture people along. Also targeted video ads on like a pre-roll, as well as YouTube. Those, again, is kind of that next phase down from nurturing. And then finally, when people are in that decision-making, or even you're trying to create loyalty, those two phases, retargeting services perfectly. And I'm going to share towards the end, you can actually see how retargeting and prospecting makes an impact, but retargeting across all of the platforms, connected TV, pre-roll, social, YouTube, is key as to driving that end conversion. So then when we think about messaging, and this kind of relates to creative, the messaging that you put in also should align with the stage and the goal of the audience you're going after. So again, in that prospecting standpoint, when you're trying to go after new audiences, get in front of new brand engagement type videos are great, right? This could be your first introduction to a prospect. So you want to make sure that you're very, very educational and you're kind of getting across who you are as a business and maybe what your key differentiator is. The next phase from a consideration standpoint, maybe a how-to video, or you're going to get deeper into a product or service that you offer. So again, having different videos to nurture these people along. And then finally, from the retargeting standpoint, a testimonial, a case study, a brand reinforcement video. Those are really, really great. So, up here in the awareness or consideration, let's say you did a really good job just pointing out what you do and how you can help service these people, and then retarget with a testimonial from an actual user or a case study showing how you've been successful in the past has been really great. And then I've seen advertisers have a tremendous amount of success with a follow-up thank you video. So if they do make a purchase or they do some sort of action that you're hoping for, having that follow-up video is key, and also works really, really nicely for upsell and cross-sell. So, let's just think about a brand. If they, let's say a clothing apparel, if they have, they sold a shirt, pairing that with pants or, a skirt of some sort, that would be a really cool video to follow up with. So that's just some little key things to think about. Now we're going to dive into the platforms, and connected TV is the first, mostly because it's like the hottest kid on the block right now and the newest to the table as far as the platform goes. It has been around for around 4 or 5 years now, maybe 4. So it's not necessarily new, but the market and us as advertisers are really starting to hear about it more and more and be more open to engaging and trying this out. So I want to just explain quickly, because this is super important to understand the nuances of how to purchase connected TV. So first and foremost, connected TV is basically streaming TV-like content on the biggest screen in your house, which is typically your television, right? So if you've used a Netflix, Hulu, Sling, any of those, that is connected TV. And you can stream this content through like an Xbox. You can do it just through a smart device. You can also stream this content on your computer and on your phone. So just wanted to point that out. So there are two ways to purchase this. The first way is to purchase from, let's say, a cable provider or a TV station, right? So those of you who are used to buying TV ads, you might have that digital option from the provider you've used in the past. And then you can also work with an agency similar to us that you can buy basically an audience, and we'll get your ad in front of them no matter what content or what show they're watching. So the differences here from traditional TV, and this is where I see a lot of people kind of buying connected TV not in the best way, is they're buying it like they would buy traditional TV. So when you buy traditional TV, let's say you're going to buy, CNN and Fox and, whoever else, MSNBC, right? You're buying these like TV news stations because you're wanting to go after an executive business type audience, right? You're making assumptions based on data on who is actually looking at that content. And that's all well and good, especially when it comes to television. But now when you buy connected TV, we can layer in the power of digital to be able to hone in these people even more. So for instance, you can say, I want to go after men and women who are ages 25 to 55 in these specific zip codes and who have a household income of 100K plus. You can get super granular of who exactly it is you want to go after, and then you can serve them an ad on whatever channel they're watching. So it doesn't have to be, let's hope they're watching news today. No, maybe they're watching ESPN, or maybe they're watching HGTV, or maybe they're watching who knows what. But whatever it is, you can get your ad in front of the audience and the persona that you're trying to capture versus, again, kind of casting that large net against stats and an idea of who's watching. So I would say that's the biggest power that connected TV has from a granularity standpoint. So again, being able to utilize, TV has always been the pinnacle from an advertising standpoint because it has that, and I should go back here, but it has sight, sound, and motion. And when you can have all of these things together, it elicits emotion. And when you're able to pull emotion from somebody, your message resonates so much more. And as Bob shared with all the stats, people just want to engage with you through video more than anything else. And so now, again, to take that power of digital and apply it to this really strong, amazing platform is so key. And I just read a stat this morning that my team shared with me, and I wanted to bring it to you guys. Since COVID, people have at least added one more, if not the first streaming device into their home during that time period. So think about like Disney Plus, right? If you were already a Netflix user or Hulu user, or maybe they completely cut the cord from using a cable provider and now they're leveraging Sling. So Sling is all streaming. You don't need a cable provider to use it. So people have made that shift much, much more rapidly than they would have, maybe if COVID didn't happen. But the interesting thing on this is that advertisers can reach 90% of adults via connected TV now because of this rapid movement of people using streaming. So I think, again, the only reason I'm kind of hammering this home to you guys is because it is extremely important to understand that this is where people are and you want to go where audiences are sitting, right? So anyway, I'll get off that soapbox. The next piece is programmatic video. This is the oldest kid on the block, but I would say has the most data and the easiest way to almost track what people are doing. So if you ever go to a website like, let's just say CNN or ESPN, and you want to watch the highlights of the football game maybe you missed last weekend, well, before that highlight reel plays on ESPN, a video will show, right? An ad will show. That's what pre-roll is. And it's a great way, again, to really hone in and target an audience and get this video. And it can be skippable at times, but I think it's just a really cool way to have people engage. And the thing about pre-roll that's great is that you can click on that ad, right? So if somebody does find whatever ad is there interesting, they can click on it and go right to your website, which is awesome. The other thing that's available, and this actually is true for most, is that the view-through tracking and the conversion optimization. So you're really able to see not only who clicks on the ad and goes to your website, but also who saw the video and came to your website later. We know that that happens more times than not, especially with connected TV. And so to be able to have that measurement included in your reporting is super key, because you're going to see the results on what's performing and what's not. And I'll share that with you in a little bit, an example. So then Facebook and Instagram video ads have just skyrocketed as well. But just to give you an idea of how much, 100 million hours of video is watched daily on Facebook, which I think is insane. 20% of those videos are live broadcasts, which continue to increase, and I think is really cool. Live videos tend to be watched 3 times more than pre-recorded. And I thought this was a really good thing to see here, that 200 million Instagram users visit at least one business profile daily. So again, if you're on Facebook or Instagram, this is a great way to make sure that your business presence is known, because people are engaging quite often. Now, social media, Facebook, Instagram specifically, they're working towards servicing this audience and the advertisers because of this super increase in social media usage due to COVID. They're trying to, as a platform, develop very quickly to be better, right? Better for us as users as well as us as advertisers. So from an e-commerce perspective, I would say this is where they've grown the most, but Instagram replaced this activity tab with a shop tab to make it easier to engage and buy from the advertisers. Also, I would say over here, kind of speaking to the live video, they've also made it available now that creators can monetize that live video by allowing visitors or viewers, to purchase items directly from the broadcast, which is awesome. So I would say, if you have a boutique or you have, some sort of e-commerce presence, it's an awesome opportunity to take advantage and really make that connection with your customer base. The next piece is Snapchat. Now, Snapchat is obviously newer, but again, they're competing very much right now with TikTok. So they are putting a lot of power and a lot of emphasis as to making Snapchat a more relevant ad space for us as advertisers, right? So they're trying to make it where you're going to see more results and get more done. If you're a business that wants to go after a younger audience, Snapchat is 100% an area for you to be in. And as Bob mentioned about creative, being authentic is key, and Snapchat really gives you that place to be super authentic, super real, like give behind the scenes look at your store or at your business. It's a really cool platform to do that and engage. The other thing to think about is from the video standpoint, 5 seconds or less is key. And I just want to point this out. More than half of Gen Zers who watched a skippable ad on Snapchat for less than 2 seconds correctly remembered it. So Gen Zers, so that's the behind millennials, within 2 seconds, you're making an impact and they're able to remember it. So just think about that, okay? And especially, again, from the affordability standpoint, you do not have to beat your head up against the wall. This can be short and sweet and to the point, and you can make a really large impact. YouTube. I just am loving them right now, in addition to connected TV, because YouTube is another one where they are trying to figure out the best way to provide meaningful, actionable takeaways for us as advertisers, right? So as we reach out to customers, how can we make sure that we're getting the results we're looking for? And then on the consumer side, how are we making sure that we're getting the most relevant, easy way to communicate with our brands? So the best thing I think that Google has going right now regarding video is the custom intent audience. So if you're not familiar with what that is, basically if you're online and you're searching for, I always love shoe examples, but let's say I'm looking for black pumps, new releases for fall 2020. I'm searching for that. And I've never seen your brand. I've never went to your website. I haven't even seen your search ad, right? If you're buying that. Then I go to YouTube to watch a video, just to learn a little bit about digital marketing later today. And before I watch my video, YouTube is going to show me a heel ad from a shoe store, a local shoe store who has the black pumps that could be of my dreams. So how crazy is that? So you can actually serve videos to people who have searched for your products or service on Google. So it really makes that alignment so key. And just from the time that they have shown, people doing this, there's 140% higher conversion rate, whether if they weren't using custom intent, and the cost is lower. So you're getting better bang for your buck, which I think is something we all want. The other thing that they've done is take TrueView, which is their most popular ad form. So an ad, right, that plays before the content you're trying to reach and can be skipped. But basically what they've allowed is an end card to remain 5 seconds after an ad is finished playing for you to engage. And it has a call to action here. So it's really hard to see what the call to action is, but it could be click to learn more, sign up now, shop now, buy now, whatever it is, right? But having that call to action is really, really important in any of these ads that you're doing. And this just makes it a little bit more accessible. And from this little change, they've seen a 200% higher click-through rate, and again, a lower cost per view, which is fantastic. Just some other things, and this was from Google, but I think is very applicable to any creative that you're doing, is to make sure that you're following this cadence, right, from a messaging standpoint. So 1, establish the problem. 2, make sure you introduce the solution to the problem, explain why your solution is better maybe than others or why you're great, and then have a promotion or call to action afterwards. That's where you're going to get the most engagement. Now, from performance insights, there are a lot of different things that you guys could be looking at. Impressions key, right? Because impressions, when it comes to either connected TV or any of this other stuff, impressions is that one-to-one, right? We know that you're serving it to one specific person, and that ad is being seen. So impressions is good to see how many people have actually seen this ad. And then also frequency. Frequency is going to say how many times one unique person has seen your ad. And that's really key for fatigue and making sure that you're pushing the message out enough, but not too much. The other thing that I think is really key, because we are kind of coming out of time, so I'm trying to keep this short, but the 2 most important, I would say, for us to be focused around is understanding attribution on cross-device, and then view-through conversions. So I just want to dive into those a little bit more because they're really important, especially as it relates to video. So 1, from a cross-device standpoint, I just want to give a quick story. So if you are, let's say, I'm out and about and I'm on my phone and I'm searching for, I just recently wanted to get a new car. So I'm looking at, a new SUV with 3 rows so I can fit all the kids. Cool. So I'm out and about, I'm on my phone, I do that. I get home later. My phone is connected to my Wi-Fi, right? So my Wi-Fi, my smart TV is also connected to that. So let's say I sit down to get caught up on the news, and as I'm streaming this content, before the news plays, the TV break or whatever, the commercial break, I get an ad for the SUV that I was looking at. That is what cross-device allows us to do by connecting the mobile devices, the desktop, the iPads, whatever it is, all to the same Wi-Fi, and you can follow those users and really make sure you engage them no matter where they are, either in their home or how they're engaging with you digitally, which is a really cool thing. The other piece to look at is view-through data. So again, view-through is if I was served an ad, didn't click, but went to the website anyway. That's what view-through allows. And with video, we know most times people don't click on the video ads, especially if it's connected TV, right? You can't click on the ad. So all they can do is look up your site and get to you. So I think understanding that this is such an important metric when it comes to tracking success is really key. And I know that was something that you guys had noted, that it isn't the easiest to know if it's successful or not. And this is a really interesting example. So here, this is showing from a prospecting standpoint that the majority of the conversions, so we're also able to match conversions as far as like what people do once they get to your website. Did they get to, in the example of a car, did they get to the product description page of the vehicle that you're trying to sell them? Did they ask for a price quote, right? Those are really good micro conversions on your site that you want to take a look at. And you can see if that happened either post-click or post-view. And anyway, in this example, you can see that a lot of the conversions happened in post-view. And a lot of times, another thing that I just want to point out, people look at Google Analytics to track success, and Google only measures on first click. So again, since people don't click on video ads, you're going to miss a lot of data and information. The only other thing I wanted to point out here is predictive modeling is up here. And you can see that our predictive modeling ad group converted quickly, as far as not even less than a day. And that was a prospecting piece. And if you guys remember, I had mentioned that connected TV is a really great place to do prospecting and predictive modeling. So this is a great example of that. So I want to leave enough room for questions. So I'm going to kind of skip over this piece as far as what we covered, because you guys just heard it all. I think you guys, I don't know if you are familiar with Adtaxi, but we are friends with the best and the brightest in the industry. So Snapchat, Facebook, Microsoft, Google. Very, very fortunate to be a part of this elite group. And then finally, I just want to point out that we will be reaching out and are happy to offer a free audit of any of your digital advertising. So if there's data that you're looking at and you're not sure, is this performing or is it not? We are extremely happy to dive in and look at that for you and see if there's anything that maybe you're missing or that you could be doing better. So that's free, and definitely want to offer that. So now I just want to turn it over back to Wendy, who is open to asking questions, or if you guys had any questions. Yep.
Yeah, so we do have a few questions, Lindsay. Thank you so much. You and Bob have such an informative presentation, a lot of really good information here. And there's a few questions that have come in just to sort of drill down on some specifics. One in particular is, how do people actually determine how to buy specific channels for connected TV? Like, what's really, how do you sit down with a client to identify, how to make that decision?
So what channels? So what I would say is the difference, again, with connected TV is you want to buy the audience. So audience is the most important piece to focus on and to change your mindset when you're buying any sort of digital, okay? So connected TV is the same because it is a digital product. You want to say, who is it that you want to go after? Just be very clear on the person and the persona. And then the way that connected TV and all the other channels that I talked about, you're able to reach those people very, very easily. And you shouldn't necessarily care, right, what they're watching. If you want to get me, I'm a female, you can put me in a box and assume I'm going to watch HGTV where, I'm a sports enthusiast, right? So you're going to get me here. So it's really important to make sure that you kind of not focus on content and focus more on the audience of who you want to go after.
Great. We have an audience member who is asking, he's struggling a little bit with finding topics that are interesting to his prospects and customers. Is this common, and how do you sort of work through that?
Yeah, it is common. I would say, so one of the things I would look at first is trying to understand, I don't know what you've done in the past, obviously, but looking at your Google Analytics and trying to see, you can look at their interests. So you can see like the audience and the people who are currently engaging with you and coming to your site, what they have been interested in, and affinity categories. So not just related to your business, but other things that they're interested in. So you can kind of make those connections and kind of get a feel for what other things might trigger them or be exciting. And you can try to include that type of content and information in your creative.
Yeah, I'll add a little bit to that one, because I do think that's, people get hung up like, what am I going to say about my product? And I think it's that old adage, most people don't want to talk about themselves. But obviously you have your product video. I mean, that's pretty, there. But, explain how to use it. We've been working with a CBD client, and static images just say one thing, but it's really, there's so many benefits and things on the behind the scenes of how to use it. And then customer testimonials, if you have an interview with somebody, that's a great thing to do as well. The how-to on how to use it. So sometimes it's like, I'd rather watch a video on how to maximize the use of my phone or maximize the product I just bought from you. So there's a lot of different nuances there on what you think that people might not be interested in actually are.
It's great advice. I want to jump into a little bit different angle. We have someone who's asking a question about how to get around an advertiser wanting to see their ad. Like in traditional TV, there's a trust factor with knowing the days and times you can see the videos run. I know we didn't talk a lot about this in the presentation. That's not what the focus was. But, can we talk a little bit about expectations of an advertiser and how they would actually see their video?
Yeah, so I would say, first of all, hopefully this advertiser is doing digital in some capacity, and their first introductory into digital isn't through connected TV. I would say that's probably not even the best place for them to start if that is the case. They should be doing some other lower funnel things to understand it. But so I would relate it to that. So this is my point, right? If hopefully they're doing digital and relate it to those factors that, look, it works similarly. This is digital. This isn't TV. But reporting is key. Okay. So the follow-up and what you can see. So I know, like, from our standpoint, we can show the channels the ad was served on. So you can see, like, where the content related, the times of day that people consumed this content. And then the most important piece is the conversion side. So it's less about seeing yourself, and it's more about, do you want consumers to convert and do something meaningful on your site? That should be what you kind of pivot the conversation to, and saying, let me show you how I can help increase your business versus helping you see your face on connected TV. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, that's kind of the bottom line.
Yeah. I just had a similar situation. So I help out with this club, and we're trying to get members, and these members are like, well, how come I didn't see our ads on Facebook? I never see our ads on Facebook. It's like, well, you liked our page, didn't you? Well, I excluded any ads from showing to you. So people, you can say to them, do you want your ads to play to you, or do you want them to play to people that are going to buy? So just something to think about that.
Right. And in speaking of sort of the conversions, in some we have another audience member who's asking about Instagram and Facebook. So they say, I've noticed higher CPAs on Instagram compared to Facebook for video ads, specifically during COVID. Is this something that you're seeing in general for conversions?
That surprises me a little bit. I wouldn't say that I've seen that across the board. I would, and I don't know if this person can tell me, but like, maybe it's who you're going after. It could also be the market that you're in, right? So you could be in a very competitive market. Reaching me in my little small town in Pennsylvania versus maybe people in Brooklyn, definitely going to pay different for me versus them. So I think that's going to be a piece of it. I would say what we saw is actually CPAs decrease over COVID because there was just more demand, right? There was more opportunity. And so the supply and demand factor, right? It just made the cost cheaper. So no, but also keep in mind, video can be a little bit more expensive at times. But it also, again, as we kind of talked about, that's the way people want to consume. Instagram knows that. And so that could be the factor.
Great. And getting back a little bit to the custom intent audiences, which you talked about earlier, an audience member wants to know, for search retargeting on YouTube, do you know if it's possible to do the same kind of thing on Facebook as well? Sort of a very specific question.
So do it on Facebook from a custom intent. So I would say, so Google owns YouTube, right? So Google is using their search data, right? So people who are searching in the search engine. So when you're searching for something on Google, you're low funnel, low intent, right? So then it's cool that you can serve those people an ad. I would say then Facebook creates a pool, right, of people based on cookies, like things that they have searched for in the past, things that they seem to be engaging in, right? Then they fall into this audience segment that you can pick. So I would say it's not 100% related to the Google searches or the Bing searches that they're doing. Instead, it's how Facebook is aggregating the data based on the users. And so I guess it's how you're kind of segmenting your audiences on Facebook, but you kind of can get to a similar thing, I would say. I hope that answered.
And we're getting close to the end, so I'm going to just, I have one more question from our audience for now. And just for our audience members, any questions that we didn't have time to get to, I know Lindsay and Bob will be reaching out to you after the presentation to answer those questions. So no worries if we didn't get to them all today. But this last one has to do with direct response campaigns and how to account for sales that come in organically but were influenced by video, as in they didn't respond immediately, but they may have a few days later. And so how do you sort of track that and keep, and manage those pieces of things when that happens?
Yeah, so I would say, well, one, you can look in Google Analytics at the behavior flow of, what maybe what the path was to conversion. So instead of the final click that got them there, what touch points happened along the way. You can see some of that. I would say it's also reporting within the platform. So it depends like what video channel you're using to be able to tell that. But yeah, I mean, most like what I kind of showed you guys the example there at the end, the where post view and post click, how the conversions came in and the timestamps. So you can see, how long it happened before a conversion happened, whether the conversion happened, and it didn't obviously happen right away from the video. So I would say it's really looking at the full picture and the full funnel, depending on what you're doing. I feel bad because I don't know that I'm answering that question really well. So if you want to reach out to me offline, like I can.
I'll chime in just a bit. That is an insane question. It's a great question. The attribution in the window. We've had clients before that said, you know what, Adtaxi, I'm not giving you any credit for anything that was served 7 days before. So we can look at a window and say, well, that one happened 10 days, so we're not going to give you credit. I don't think you did that. But if within 7 days, you can do that. So you can see that, like Lindsay mentioned, a timestamp there on how that tracks. We also just saw one the other day, another company that said, I want to test you, and we're going to run a hard eight-day run on CTV, and let's see what happens. We saw it ramp up. Then we saw it start to trickle off a little bit. But even longer after we cut all the ads off, we saw trailing attribution of ads that were influenced through that. So you can model that out and you can see, holy smokes, when I stopped ads, even for the next 7, 8, 10 days, I was still getting ads or people that came in, you say organically, but they typed it in. So there was influence in there, and we can see that. So you can set attribution windows how you want and kind of also account for, was it the first thing that happened or the last thing that happened or something in the middle that happened in that. Yeah. Hopefully that.
Yeah, and I think using pixels too, is just making sure, again, like tracking view-thru data and all of that information, like you have to have that tracking in place to be able to see, kind of what Bob described, which was a great description. So, but yeah, you just have to have the right tracking in place.
And this has been a great presentation to really like dive into this and make it so accessible and really understand that anyone can do this. We just have to look at who your audience is, as Lindsay talked about, and really understand how to track it to really find success. I just want to thank Lindsay and Bob for a great informative presentation. We got a ton of questions, which is fabulous. Thank you, our audience, for participating in our conversation today. And we will get, and again, our speakers will get back to you on any of those questions. And we appreciate that you spent the past hour with us. And I hope everyone has a great day.
Bye. Thank you.
Thanks.